Mackenzie. Lemar. Nailed it.
I think I
Wow.
did it. I was like, how do I make your really short
Yeah.
name do that? But we did it. We did it.
So, what a perfect way to kick off. And I promise we're not going to do this every week or all episode, but what a perfect way to kick off our racing month of August with those voices. So, you were campaigning relatively hard for this one. This had been sort of mentioned
I'm not gonna
multiple
lie.
months before and sort of what do we want to do for a theme. But just curious, why do you love racing movies? Why was this one that you were sort of passionate about?
Well, I just fucking love cars. Like, I just think cars, it's so funny that this is coming up. Like, I was just telling you a minute ago that the car gods are talking to me today. So my car, my Forerunner, who I love and adore, her name is Nimbus. Her 10th birthday was this week. And I'm
Happy
literally,
birthday, Nimbus.
thank you. And I'm literally in the middle of like making her a video to tell her happy birthday. So like it's a thing. And then like I helped multiple people with car things today. I'm wearing a checkered dress for those of you who are not on video because checkered flag.
Yeah, you guys are, those of you not on video, I feel like it's worth jumping over to YouTube and checking out because I told Mackenzie the one thing she's missing is like a red scarf / bandana to do the like, what is it, the drag race girl, like perfect outfit for it, the red lipstick. It's all working together.
Thank you. So I love cars. I love racing. I love anything that goes fast, but I just love cars. To me, from a very young age, they were like just represented freedom for a teenage girl who just like really needed that. So I got into cars. I got into my own car. I taught myself how to work on my car from a Haynes manual. If for those of you out there who work on your car, I literally walked to the AutoZone, bought a Haynes manual, figured out how to fix my 94 Honda Civic. That was my first car. So
all our mechanic listeners are coming in their pants right now. Anybody out there that works in a shop is like, there's a girl that knows how to work on cars.
From a book. So like, don't forget, you guys, books
Mackenzie
can teach you anything. Yes. I love to read. Anyways, I just love it. And I geek out every time I watch a car movie. It doesn't even have to be a good one.
Do you remember what the first one that you saw was? I don't want to talk favorite cars this episode. I'm going to save that for another cold open. But like, do you remember your first car movie that kind of got you into the genre?
That's a good question. I definitely saw Bullet when I was really young. I don't know if that's the one that got me into it though. Like it has that big chase scene and whatnot, but which I thought was awesome, of course. But I don't think it like stood out to me as the one. I remember Fast and the Furious of my era was like I was obsessed with that movie for sure. And Gone in 60 Seconds I was obsessed with as well. So I don't know what the first one would be, but those are like some of the standouts. Yeah.
I feel like I was late to the party, and it's not my favorite genre. It's not in my top 5 genres, but they're very enjoyable. They're very thrilling. So for an action movie, I'll take a racing movie. I was same as you, kind of late to the party of Fast and the Furious, Gone in 60 Seconds, The Italian Job, which is more of a heist movie, but there's some car chases in there.
I fucking
the remake
love the
of Italian Job.
Yeah, the remake. And the OG is fun too, but the remake has the great like chase scenes with the
Mini Coopers when everybody for like 6 months wanted a Mini Cooper. Yeah, that trend faded, but
those are really fun to drive. They're not fun to work on. Fun fact, that's BMW basically. And if you've ever encountered a BMW, very hard to work on, very expensive.
I've encountered BMWs. They're the ones where they're changing lanes and not using their turn signal.
Correct.
Yes,
yep,
I have encountered
that's them.
Those. Mm-hmm.
That is them. That's them. But thanks for like patronizing me and letting us do this. I'm clearly very excited. So
is patronizing a good thing or a bad thing? I feel like patronizing is a negative connotation.
I think it could go either way. In this case, I'm taking it.
Okay, you seemed very happy about it.
Because I got my way, so I'm mostly happy about it. Okay, well, let's roll.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lemar.
And we're kicking off a whole new month of racing movies, if you haven't caught on. And we're calling this one
August.
The agreement was that Lemar had to do that. He has to do that one every week. That was the agreement. I was like, I'm not doing it. You got to do it. So, no, it sounded so good. I love this. And we're going to kick things off with Ford versus Ferrari, which is objectively awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
What are your,
This was my first time watching it all the way through anyway.
Oh,
I started it on an airplane at some point. I was on a trip and like got 45 minutes in, and then I think either we had really bad turbulence, but for some reason I turned the movie off and I was like, I just need to put on music and try to
I
fall
can't be
asleep
watching
or something.
racing cars while my plane is
Yeah,
going
no
like this.
intensity. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay. What are we drinking to just rave for the next hour?
So today, as always, our cocktail from at Craft World. If you're looking for a little bit of caffeine in your life, it's kind of, I don't know, would you say this is, it's not really a take on an espresso martini. It's got cold brew, but it's more of just a cocktail that happens to have cold brew in it, right?
Hilariously, he was like, it could be like espresso martini E or it could be like iced coffee E. And we interpreted it as an iced coffee today. So
okay, I did the opposite, and to me, because this is going to have liquor 43, and it's almost like a more florally espresso martini to me. But you know, people might say it's different than that, different palates. But
I think you can take it either way. Is the point? And,
yeah. So the recipe, as I said on this, is going to be 0.75 ounces of liquor 43, as well as 0.75 ounces of Mr. Black. That's the coffee liqueur. 2 ounces of whiskey and 2 ounces of cold brew. Shake it, strain it. If you want to add some cream in there to go the more iced coffee route, you can do as Mackenzie did. If not, you can leave it as is, as I did. And we're calling this I Could Go for Miles. And do you want to explain, Mackenzie, all the complexities of this that Skylar went into detail with you?
Well, no spoilers, but one of the main drivers in this film is Ken Miles, famous Hall of Fame racer. So we love this man. He's one of the heroes of this story, so to speak. So it's kind of I Could Go for Miles. It's alluding to his long, perfect lap. These are endurance races. There's also a song that aligns a little bit by The Who with this story, and and it's just a race. So it was punny on many, many levels, is
Triple
how
pun.
it was explained to me. Yes.
Well done,
All right, well,
Craft
let's give it a try. Let's see.
Cheers.
Let's compare. Okay, yeah. See, we look very different today, but I like them both. Okay, that's tasty. How do you like yours?
Like I said, florally espresso martini. The liquor 43 does something with the taste on that, but very good.
Very tasty. Okay. All right. Well, if I wasn't hyped already, now I've got coffee booze.
Yeah.
All right. So, as per usual, we're going to get some basics out of the way, give you a spoiler warning, because this is not that old, to be honest. So I think there's plenty of people who haven't seen it.
Was it 7 years, something like that? What year is this?
Yeah, well, 6 years. So 2019?
Okay. 19. Okay.
Yeah. So we got some, got some people who may want to catch up to us here. No worries. But again, Ford versus Ferrari 2019. This is an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb and a 92% from critics, 98% from audiences. So just fucking acclaimed across the board, which is to me unsurprising.
It's well put together. It's telling a true story in the most interesting way. I didn't dig deep to make sure that it was true to everything that happened in real life, which is always a thing. I see you've got your fingers twiddling, so we'll get into that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good time, and it makes sense with this director, right? So James Mangold done a lot of great stuff.
This might be the director with the most awesome resume that I had no idea his name prior to looking him up.
Fair. Like, yeah, I mean, I've seen all this stuff, but I've seen his name. Like, I just didn't connect all the dots that these were all him, right? And he's done, some incredible stuff with a really, really long, kind of storied resume. Like, I have an interesting selection here because I thought we would all want to take a ride. So
genre hopping,
yeah. So he did A Complete Unknown, which is a recent Bob Dylan biopic. If you haven't seen it, I personally loved it, so check it out. Walk the Line, another musical biopic, obviously. Johnny Cash. Yeah. And then we've got Logan, the like reboot sort of the Wolverine story that was like very dark and twisty, but really good. Kate and Leopold, which I had to include because one, it's a rom-com and so different from all of these, and two, like I actually really liked it. It's
I haven't
such
seen
a different vibe.
Okay. Worth
it's
watching.
Like Hugh Jackman and all that. It's just like, if you like a decent rom-com here and there, it's like not a bad one. It has like a time travel story to it, so I think that part's cool. And then Girl Interrupted. Like, yeah,
that again, the fact I'm sure there's some cinephiles out there that are hating the fact that I didn't know this guy's name, but like stemming all the way back to the early aughts when that was Oscar nominated, it just blew my mind that this is the same guy.
This is the same dude. I know. I knew his name, but like I didn't put all these together. So like,
Right.
I mean, whatever. We can't know everything. We got a movie podcast and we don't know all these things. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah. The only other ones that I would add in would be 310 to Yuma, which is a pretty good like Western train heist robbery kind of thing with Christian Bale, as well as Identity, which was a good like horror thriller type movie that sort of surprised me even when I was 20 years younger than I am now.
Yeah, I really liked it, and I liked 310 to Yuma a lot. It's not my favorite Western, but it's like a decent Western at a time where there actually weren't a lot of Westerns coming out. So like at that time, that was kind of a Western drought, I thought. And so it was like it was a nice pick-me-up for me personally. Okay, and we got a few writers on this. We had this film went through some ups and downs and some starts and stops, no pun intended, to get this thing, off the block. So we have 3 writers who touched this at various different times. Jez Butterworth. He did Edge of Tomorrow, Black Mass, which if you haven't seen Black Mass, I feel like that's kind of a deep cut, but it's really good.
Is that Philip Seymour Hoffman or Johnny Depp?
No, it's Johnny Depp.
Okay.
Yeah, but he like looks really different in that. Okay. Yeah. And then Spectre, which is a really different Bond movie too. So I think that's like, it's a good Bond movie, but it's a very different storytelling version of Bond, I think is fair to say. So interesting stuff. And then John Henry Butterworth. Wait a second. We got 2 Butterworths.
The super Butterworth brothers up in here.
they definitely are super enough to work on 2 movies together.
Yeah. Okay.
Edge of Tomorrow, Black Mass. I just want to hear I just want to be in the room with them. Like, who's writing more? Are they bickering? Are they like, you just sat there in the room while I wrote the whole thing and I wrote it all? Like, I just want to know. How does this working relationship work?
Yeah, you want to be in the room where it happens. Did they both also do Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, or was that just one of them? I saw
it was just one of them, but I don't remember which one. I think it was Jez.
Okay, I don't think
I probably shouldn't make that
if we
claim.
Mix them up. It's okay
because I know like they're both J's too. J's. Yeah. Well, your parents are just cruel, to be honest. Like J and J Butterworth, and then we have Jason Keller, who did Escape Plan and Machine Gun Preacher. Neither.
I was gonna say this is the first Jason Keller written film that I've ever seen, but I know what the second one's gonna be. It's gonna be Machine Gun Preacher. That is on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's on my list. Should it be on my list? I don't know. TBD. All right, so cast and crew. We have Mr. Matt Damon. I don't know. He's done like 1 or 2 things here and there, perhaps. Yeah. He's playing Carol Shelby. Was he playing
himself in that South Park movie? Like not so. South Park, Team America World Police?
Oh,
that's the only one I know him from.
I think that's definitely literally just him.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, I think that's that guy.
Yeah. That's that guy. I don't know. Actually, really, in all seriousness, I think one of my favorite Matt Damons is maybe not everybody's favorite, but I really enjoy it.
We bought a zoo. Where are you going with this?
Hilariously, the reason why I think that's funnier is I have that movie.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
That was also in my era. I just like bought every movie. Anyway, whatever. Talented Mr. Ripley.
I still haven't seen that, but it pops up everywhere as like this underrated. Yeah, we should do that on the pod at some point, honestly.
I am tempted to pause and make you go watch it. Like it's so good. No, I love it. It's also based on a book, so I love the book as well. But he does a really good job, and I think it's like very different than his usual. Anyway. All that to say, he's done a few things. Yeah. Christian Bale plays our other hero, Ken Miles. Obviously done all the Dark Knights. He did American Psycho, which I think is another good like range kind of role for him. And then also Vice, I wanted to call out in case people have not seen Vice. He does a really good job in that.
Didn't he gain a bunch of weight for Vice and then immediately have to lose it all for this? Because he's super slender in this one. I feel like they were
back to back, but it was pretty close. It was either this or The Big Short because he did both, and like one of them was like that where he had to lose a bunch of weight. But yeah, he gained a ton of weight for Vice and then lost a bunch of weight, and then obviously don't need to mention he did now I'm blanking on Machinist. Thank you. Where he did the same thing. He got super scrawny, exactly. So he's willing to do that. It's really bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really bad for you. Him and who else? Matthew McConaughey did that too, obviously for Dallas Buyers Club, and he said it like messed with his body as well. So
Yeah. I was trying to find sort of fun facts about Christian Bale. The only thing I could remember was when he had that tirade on the Terminator set and was just yelling at the camera or the lights guy, the person that walked. I don't know. It's worth finding that clip if you want to resurface Christian Bale being an asshole on set 20 years ago. But I did find out his very first on-screen role was in a commercial for Pac-Man cereal. And I think this was in the UK. If anybody out there can find me a box of Pac-Man cereal, I would really, even 40 years later, love to try it for the record.
yeah, like I have questions. I mean, it's super expired at this point. It can't be as good as it was, but I'm fascinated to see it.
In my head, I'm imagining like, obviously little circular yellow crunchy bits, but then maybe the ghosts are marshmallows. In my head, that's what I'm imagining. I have to Google it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Googling it for us because I feel like we needed this information as we were talking about it. And look at it like so. It's kind of like Lucky Charms-ish.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was imagining.
It's like a mix between, you know what it's a mix between? It's a mix between like Kix and Lucky Charms. Do you remember Kix?
I do remember Kix, but they didn't have enough sugar for me. I was a sugar
It was like
cereal.
the sugariest cereal my mother would allow us to buy was freaking Kix.
Sad.
I know.
Like
anyway, but it's like that.
Bummer.
I know. It was the Raisin Bran. Ugh. Whatever. Moving on. Moving away from my trauma. Okay. John Bernthal, Lee Iacocca, who has been in a few things, but I feel like most people recognize him from like most recently they rebooted The Accountant. So that was a big one that he was in. He's also did King Richard, but then also he's in The Bear for TV, and I think that's a big hit that people will know. So he was Mikey, the brother, in that.
One of the first things I wrote down in my notes was I fucking love John Bernthal. Everything he's in, he just like eats up the screen for me. He was great in the Daredevil TV series as the Punisher. He was great in The Walking Dead in the couple seasons he was on that. Wolf of Wall Street, again, smaller part, but crushes it. Sicario, small part, crushes it. He's just very captivating. Like he has a presence about him, like an old school kind of handsome, but also commanding presence. And apparently he's broken his nose 14 fucking times.
14?
That he's got to be in the Guinness book,
Jonathan, right? What are you doing? I have questions.
Maybe it was to get into the Guinness book. Maybe that's why it's.
Maybe that's what I mean. I don't know. He kind of gives me that energy, like that he would do that. Who knows? I don't know.
He's
been
in a scrap or two for sure.
He's been in a scrap or two, and I am kind of into it. Yeah, he's a very, very handsome man. But I agree also. Like he just kind of like. Even in his more subtle roles, which I would say this one kind of is. He's kind of just, in theory, like playing it straight, like straight suit guy. He definitely, he just definitely dominates the screen and like takes up, has a presence. So yeah, love everything that he's in. I forgot about the Punisher. I think he had his own series of that as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, Katrina Balfe, she was Molly Miles in this, the ultra supportive wife, which we'll get to. She's most well known, I think, for Outlander, which is like a very long running TV series that's based on a book. But she recently was in a film that was Oscar nominated and very well done, Belfast. If you haven't
seen that one, did not see it yet.
It's all black and white, and it's like coming of age during the Troubles and a lot of like the conflict in Northern Ireland, and it's very well done. I believe Kenneth Branagh directs it. Anyway, really good. Check it out. Tracy Letts, Henry Ford II. I love him. He's like such an interesting character actor, and when I was looking at his resume, I sort of forgot him and Greta Gerwig are homies apparently, because he did Lady Bird and Little Women, which are both her. And then he also did The Post. But he's done a ton of stuff. He's in like, I don't know, he's one of those background character actors that you don't always notice, but does a good job.
The key thing about character actors or background actors like that is they have to be super versatile, as much as, superstar actors have to be able to do lots of different things. I feel like character actors sometimes get pigeonholed into like typecasting, but him portraying Ford throughout this, there's moments where you hate him, there's moments where you really like him, there's moments where you empathize with him, and he does all 6 of these different things over the course of a 2-hour movie. Like for the amount of time he's in it, he's really good.
Yeah, I think he gives in very subtle ways, he gives you very interesting backstory into why this guy would maybe be the way that he is. Yeah. He's very complex with minimal screen time, to be honest.
Daddy and granddaddy issues.
Yeah, all the issues. Yeah, no, he does great. And then also Josh Lucas, who I think is most well known for Sweet Home Alabama, plays Leo Beebe. He's a senior vice president of Ford at this time. He's also most well known, I think, from a movie perspective. Glory Road is like his next closest, but he also does young John Dutton in Yellowstone. So I know there are probably a lot of Yellowstone fans out here who know him from that.
It was weird. The first pull in my brain was him starring opposite Christian Bale in American Psycho. And again, it's a smaller role, but
Yeah,
that famous scene where they're comparing business cards, he's in that
that's
scene. So this
right.
isn't the
That
first
is
time they've
right.
worked together in Ford versus Ferrari. Yeah. And he's
Well, that's
such a
funny.
good sniveling antagonist in
I
this.
know. Which is so different than like even the John Dutton role, even the Sweet Home Alabama, which is like a very rom-com-y role. But like I love that movie. I think it's like one of those good rom-coms. There aren't a lot, but there are some. But like those are all very different characters. It's like the same thing. He's playing very different types. And here he's, yes, very sniveling, annoying, which is like kind of not true to life. But anyway, he does a
Yeah.
very good job of it. So and then last one I wanted to mention because it's in the name of this movie is Remo Gironi plays Enzo Ferrari. And he's not super well known in the States for a lot of films. He did, I think his most well known like US release would be Live by Night, which I still haven't seen. And we have actually talked about before. And I keep
Okay.
meaning to put on my list. Anyway, it's supposed to be very good. But then a bunch of Italian films. And he's not actually from Italy. He's from Eritrea, which is like a north, like in the Horn of Africa. But there's a lot of like Italian colonization history there. So he, I think, has Italian family kind of thing. And then like he speaks the language and all of that. So he's a very convincing Ferrari, is what I'm saying. Really good. Okay, quick plot summary. And then we'll get into some fun stuff. So, American car designer Carroll Shelby and driver Ken Miles battle corporate interference and the laws of physics to build a revolutionary race car for Ford in order to defeat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966.
Historically accurate, I'm pretty sure.
Historically accurate. Yeah. It actually starts a little bit before that because we go to like, we hear the 65 race. But anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, kids. Turn around, don't drown. It's spoiler time. Spoiler alert. I love this fucking movie.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I was gonna say it's very fitting with like the turn around, don't drown, because that's like a Texas road thing. So it's fitting that we're doing it during driving month. So
it is. So I mean, we love this movie, but also like everyone loved this movie, as you can tell from the ratings. But the budget, like it blew out its budget. It was like 97.6 million and it made 225, almost 226 something at the box office. So it was really well received for, I just don't think there were like a lot of movies like this right when it came out. You know, it's not like on the coattails of any other racing movie kind of thing. It was,
but it
like,
seemed to craft one, right? Because I haven't seen Rush, but I feel like that came out right after this.
Rush
there was
is
another,
so good.
There's like 3 or 4 racing that came out between like 2019 and 2022. And
they're all really
they were already working on F1 as well, which we're going to talk about next week. So yeah, I think COVID slowed some down, but I think this kickstarted another racing boom.
Fun fact, we had another one of our text threads behind the scenes, you guys, where I gave Lemar a whole list of racing movies and like all the reasons of why we should cover them and what they talk about. And it's like, this is an F1 driver and this is a NASCAR driver and this is like all this stuff. And we're picking kind of the low hanging fruit, but it's fine. There are definitely
the same thing. I took 30 seconds and was like, yeah, let's do these.
I was like, motherfucker. It's fine. But one of those is like Senna came out, very famous Formula One driver. But yes, there's this era. I do think this kind of like
I feel like this dynamic of you listing out, it's like when a waiter comes to you at a restaurant you've never, and they're like, have you ever dined with us before? And they tell you, they go into these elaborate things, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll have the cheeseburger. Like that's kind of what we're going.
I definitely came for chicken tenders, and I don't care about your order. Oh God. And we put so much work and passion into it, and you just ignore us. It's fine. I'm fine.
So I love how this starts. Within the first 60 seconds of every character, it just kicks off with introducing everyone. Like every scene, we get Matt Damon's character right off the bat of Carroll Shelby in this race. I love am I on goddamn fire? Like, yeah, am I goddamn on fire? No, then fucking put me back in the car, fill the tank. Like, let's go. That is, and we're flashing back to when he won the race, right? And that obviously is going to lead up to the conflict of him later on not being able to drive anymore. But we get that scene. We get The
Which I think he
Miles
won it in
scene,
58 or 59. So it's important to note,
so
like,
it's
it's
not
not
that
that
long
far
ago.
ahead.
Okay.
Right. It's not that far before. It's like he does genuinely have to retire from racing, short, like the whole scene that we get into here in a minute. That's genuine. So, like, he still kind of has that in his blood. And I love that we start with that, to your point of like,
Yeah.
you get like, he needs this, like this speed. This is like he has a speech that calls to it later as well. Like, there are some of us who have to do something, right? It's
Yeah.
in our blood. And you get that from him in like you said, the first 10 seconds of this movie. You're like, I know exactly who this man is.
Yeah, that am I a goddamn on fire? That line is literally like his second line of the movie, and I'm like, well, there's the character right there. I do not give a shit. I'm here to race. I want to win. And then we quickly get to Miles' character in the garage. We get that fun scene where he's teaching the guy how to drive his car. I love how that guy peels out and just is
Fucking love
shittily
that scene.
driving a fast car. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
bitch, you can't shift your car. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's a sports car. You shouldn't be shifting it at 2000 RPM, you idiot. Like,
Yeah.
I love that he just takes him to task. And then the way he like exits the garage, he looks like a fucking
Yeah.
moron. But
You're getting the core of these characters right out of the gate because we hear throughout the 2.5 hour movie of how difficult Miles is to work with, and he turns people off, and they feel like he's arrogant and he's like difficult. So we get that in the first scene. I love that. I love the first Ford scene where he shuts down the plant and is like, I'm inheriting this legacy, and we are shitting the bed right now. All of you need to go home and think long and hard about how we're going to change this. The first Ford scene is great. The first Auuuugust scene where he comes in and is like, we need to make this brand sexier and get into the racing game and do sports cars.
he's got a good
Just
pitch in that scene too. Like, you can see why he
yeah.
can convince people, you know?
Yeah, and then I feel bad when the thing malfunctions and it's like falling apart and Ford's clearly
I
not
know.
bought in. But I wanted to raise a toast really quick. This is to my Office fans out there. You're an Office fan, yeah?
Yes.
So let's see if you get this reference or not. But here's to Mr. Iacocca and his failed experiment, the DeLorean. Cheers. It's like a random Michael Scott throwaway line when he drinks the
Cheers.
scotch and like chokes to death. But yeah, I
Yeah.
never understood that line. I still don't think it makes total sense, but I
It
laughed when I
doesn't.
heard Iacocca in this
Lee
movie.
Iacocca was not involved in the
No.
DeLorean, so it's yeah, it's good.
Does anybody have any
But Lee
Splenda?
Iacocca is an industry legend, and I think that's the thing that I love about, like, it just transports you back, like, again, for like the fucking car and racing geeks,
Yeah.
like myself, you get to like transported back to when these things were happening, and you also get it relative to the what I love about Lee Iacocca's pitch is he's talking about that post-war transition as well. He's
Yeah.
like, they came back from war, they have seen some shit. Like, they don't care about this, you know, family sedan and the wood paneled station wagons, right? Like, they want something that, you know, kind of harkens to this risk, this blood, this like energy, etc., that they kind of have felt. And, you know, I think it's an interesting story to tell of like how this kind of changed the culture. And I also love Henry Ford's first scene. Like, that's such a harsh scene. To your point, he's like coming in and he's like ripping him a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not supposed to like really like him in this scene necessarily. You're not supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to feel one way or another
I
about him
rode a
going
wave
into it.
throughout this film of how I felt about my first time through of how
Right.
I felt about Ford. I went, oh, he's like the antagonist. He's such a dickhead.
Yeah.
But then 20 minutes later, you're like, oh, I kind of like the way he thinks. Oh, he's a businessman. Like I just consistently was like doing 180s on Ford.
And I think you're supposed to, right? Because like he does a great job of making making that complexity come through, and so does the script, right? Like, you
Yeah.
do, at your point, at that initial pitch of like, he is inheriting this legacy and he's not living up to it, like, and that's a very dramatic but effective way to kind of give that speech to that team. And Iacocca's pitch is really good, and he's like, I've got the vision, and that is what this man was trying to do in Detroit at this time. Like, he was trying to bring this American vision in to fruition. And so, yeah, I think that this is such an interesting dynamic. Like you said, we get a really clear picture of who these people are very quickly, and then you also get kind of transported back to the time that they are in versus the time that we're in, and
Yeah.
very effectively.
I feel like boomers probably love this fucking movie, along with the rest of us, but this is about them as teenagers and what they wanted out of their first cars. You know, it's like they don't want to
Yeah.
drive their parents' vehicles. I get the logic of Iacocca here. I also love when we transition to the negotiation scene and you see the difference in American versus Europeans in the way that they do business and the way they negotiate. And the Americans
Yeah.
are very pushy and try, like the Europeans want to take their time, review the contract, all this. And we see it play out and how that leads to Iacocca getting his way, even though the negotiation falls through. That's what makes Ford pissed off enough to want to beat Ferrari, right?
Yeah, and I think like what I think is really fun about this whole story here is they're so if you ever watch the Ferrari film, there's another Ferrari film that has Adam Driver plays Ferrari. He actually does a really good job. It's much slower paced than this. It's actually weirdly a little bit less about the racing, but it does give you his perspective on all of this. And like Ferrari was such a nationalist, it was pretty unlikely, to be honest, and kind of unheard of that an American company was going to buy this company. And he plays this so well. And but what is interesting is that the Fiat thing did not happen at the same time. So it actually wasn't that Ferrari was like trying to leverage the negotiation to get a higher price from Fiat. They did acquire them, but it was like 3 years after Le Mans. And it was actually my favorite fact about this relationship is that Fiat had been giving Ferrari a cash stipend for literal years when they were already in the negative, just as gratuity for elevating Italian motorsports internationally. Like just for being fucking Ferrari, literally. They had been paying them just gratuity. So they didn't actually sell at this time. It's not the factor like they did like have this photographer who released some of these images and things, but the tirade where he turns down Ford and the way that he says that is pretty accurate according to all accounts. Of like he said almost exactly that.
Sickest Italian burn I've ever heard.
Sickest burn, man.
Yeah,
he's not Henry Ford.
He's Henry
you are
Ford
not Henry Ford.
That is yeah.
Oof.
That's going in the diary for sure. Dear diary.
You know he went home and rage wrote that in his diary that night. Yeah. And I love that they show the next scene, right? Is that insecurity of Ford of like, what did he say? What did he say? And they try to keep it going, not personal, right? Yeah. And he's like, about me, you know, and he makes them say it. And I love that Lee Iacocca leans into it because to your point, he's like, this will maybe get me what I want. He knows that.
Gets in the green light.
Yeah, like this is going to get me the green light potentially to do this. And so he tells him and, you know, and he doesn't actually say, I want to be clear about Ford here. He's not as horrible in this scene as you think. He says some very bad racial slurs here. He just said, okay, well, we're going to race his ass and we're going to win. Right. So like he does fire him up and make him want to beat him, but it's not quite as terrible as that little line.
We dress it up a bit for the cinema. There's the other much later in the movie, the other Italian burn that I wanted to call out was when Ford flies away at the main race at Le Mans.
Oh my God, I know.
He says, there goes the greatest car maker in the world flying away in a helicopter.
He's like the great American automobile maker leaving in a helicopter.
If they ever do, if we go back in time and we do like roasts, like Comedy Central roasts in the 1960s, I feel like Ferrari should lead the roast of Henry Ford.
Ferrari would win. He was a snarky fuck for sure. I actually, again, I think you should watch Ferrari, like the movie. He does a really good job of that. But yeah, no, I think that whole dynamic is really funny. But speaking of dynamics, I do want to like go back to the first time you see Ken and Shelby interact.
Yeah.
And they're at the race and, you know, the trunk space situation. Again, talk about setting a scene and setting up a relationship. It's just fucking hysterical. And I just love that like Ken, yes, is hard to work with or whatever, but I think it's like a little bit British is part of it. Yeah. And then it's also just like, I just want to fucking race my car and I don't want to read this rule book. And it just melds into this incredible interaction. And then the wrench. And I love that Shelby frames the wrench, you know what I mean? Like it's just such a good dynamic. And I love the callback later that we'll get to of like that Shelby's fighting with the rule guy, or Ken's fighting with the rule guy, and Shelby's having to smooth it all over, right? Versus later at Le Mans, Ken starts to fight with the rule guy and Shelby doesn't like smooth it over. He fucking fights with him as well. He's like, here, let me handle this. And then fights him on it. And I just love that transition for their dynamic, you know?
Yeah. The wrench is just emblematic of, they end up winning that race, right? So yeah. It's this conflict and this dynamic between the two characters that is pivotal to like, it is a, you know, sort of a dysfunctional relationship, but they win. They're really good together. And for the most part, they get along. But I think that it also ties into the chemistry that these two actors have. Because I think without Bale and Damon really crushing it in the way that they interact, throughout the film, not just in the moments of when they're getting along and hamming it up, but in the literal conflicts of like fighting and throwing shit at each other. Also, when Damon kind of is playing this middleman between the corporate execs and the
Yeah.
driver, they nail every component of this relationship.
And if you ever like see an interview with Shelby, I think he does it like beyond just it working really well in these scenes and the chemistry here. All of that is true. I think he does a really good job of like channeling Carol Shelby. I mean, I think he really does. And so he has that like that glad handing, that charm, and but also that like kind of no nonsense attitude. And I think his speech at one point is very emblematic of that too, where he's just like I said, where he's like, there are some people just have to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna basically use all the tools at my disposal, my charm, my whatever, to get it done. And I think they do a great job of making this into a great story. I love the scene of Auuuugust coming to him at the garage, and he thinks he's there to like collect on the engines and all this stuff, and Lee's like, I don't give a shit. I'm here to recruit you to this. I think they do that really well, and the storytelling is really well. But actually, Shelby, I think like it's worth noting, he sold them on it. He went to Detroit and he sold them on this relationship and pitched them. And I just think it speaks to again like what a strong salesperson he is, and like just how motivated he is to make this happen for himself, for the company, and like to do this racing, so well.
He's speaking realistically.
Mm-hmm.
Iacocca just wants to hear, hey, how much money do we have to put up to win this race? And he gives him straightforward, you can't buy this win. That whole dynamic there, that interaction is great to watch.
That whole speech, like just that snippet, I literally would like I wrote the whole thing down. It's not NASCAR where you turn left for 4 hours. Yes, Shelby, yes. I'm like, this is where I will talk. I'm sorry, I will talk shit about NASCAR. I know it takes stamina, but like, this is different. Like it is fundamentally different. And I just love that he calls it out. And he's like, you can't buy a win, you know? You have to have a car that's light enough to do 200 on a straightaway at the Mulsanne straight, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's got to be strong enough for 3,000 miles over 24 hours without a break other than fueling and tire changes. And there's no camber on the turns, which is like that directly affects your handling, your grip in any race. It makes you go slower because this is a rough road. There's no grade. I just love his, like, he's telling him all the reasons that this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but like, you can get the guy who can maybe try. Like, and I love that little like just bookend on the end of that. It's so good.
It's a great speech or interaction, I guess, conversation. I also like when he says he lists off 10 things and he's like, that gets you on the starting line. It doesn't win you the race, but just doing
the
these
green
basics
flag doesn't get you past that.
Yeah. And then when they get to the Mustang launch, and again, you're dropping Miles and Shelby into this interaction, and Miles is just going around criticizing the new launch of the car and like putting everyone off, putting off Leo Beebe. And then when I just love the scene of Shelby flying the plane, and I think the kid looks up, I think it's Miles' son, looks up and goes, are they crashing? Are they gonna crash? Just
he's like, chaos. Is that anybody? And he's like, is that anybody we know? And he's like, I bet it is, or something like that. I bet we know him or whatever. I just love that. It's so cute. He was a trained pilot, but he didn't do that.
Okay. That's what it adds some fun to the story. I wrote down most of the humor in this really does land. I don't think there's any lines that don't hit. It's not a lot of laugh out loud funny, but it's clever.
Snark.
Yeah.
I love Ken and his snark, and like I just love that he doesn't filter. I mean, I would get along with Ken Miles so well. Like I love this man. He's so fun. Like he doesn't. What I love about him is he does not care who he's talking to. Like he's just going to be himself. He is just authentically himself, and that's personally the way I try to move through the world. Like I don't care if you're a billionaire or whatever. If you own this Ford Motor Company, or if you design this line, like I don't care. I'm going to talk to you the same way as I would talk to anybody. And yes, he's a little bit like brutal about some of his assessments, but the guy was like being a dick, and he's just kind of like, well, okay, fine, you started it. And I just love that reaction of like, well, let me tell you how I really feel. And my favorite thing about that speech is there's no evidence, by the way, that this interaction ever happened, to be clear. But I think what's funny is that he says several things that Ford ends up doing in later versions of the Mustang. So like,
Yeah, we're gonna see. I know we're not getting to F1 until next week, but there's so much overlap of just what a driver can tell you about a car that a computer can't.
totally
And
different.
I'm gonna probably end up mixing up these two films at some point with just sort of those plot points. But Miles, like I love the physics involved in this
Oh my
when
God.
they attach the little like cotton
The
or whatever
yarn,
it is, yeah,
the
the
tape
yarn
and the
to the,
yarn.
and they're using that to see where the wind resistance is hitting on the car. I just think that's brilliant.
I think it's like so simple but brilliant. I think that's what's awesome about it, right? Like you can take this like overcomplicated methodology that they're showing with the computer, which by the way they did do as well, but like they worked together really well actually, like the engineers and things. Who they didn't work well with was the suits, because again, like they say later, the racing bike committee is like not effective, right?
Yep.
But those teams, those engineers really respected each other at the end of the day. And they did have that moment where they showed them like, I love your computer, but also, and this really does like fucking yarn and some tape and let's drive it around the track and let's figure it out. And I love also that you just get that Ken's gut is right. He's like, I can feel it. You know, I
Yeah.
can feel the thing. And like, I think that's also just somebody who like loves cars and drives them a lot. Like you can feel through the car what is happening and what it needs. And yeah, I just love that they get that across with him.
That line of once it hits 140, it thinks it's an airplane.
It thinks it's an airplane. It wants to take off.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that he takes him a minute though, too. He's like, what is it doing? What is it doing? He comes back and he's like, it's catching air, but it's not going out. That's what it is. And it takes him driving it. And I think that comes back later too, where Shelby's like, he's trying to get a new driver involved for other reasons. And so he's just like, you can't tell anything after driving it for an hour. You drove for less than a fucking hour. And I love that they show Miles like he's doing the work. He is in the car for miles and miles and miles and hours and hours and hours to figure this out. And he does. He's the reason that car becomes what it is.
Yeah, you had mentioned the inherent conflict in this, which is weird because the obvious conflict is it's Ford versus Ferrari. Like that's what we're leading up to as this race. But so much of this throughout, the main antagonist is BB. He's in the hair and like doesn't want Miles driving the car. And I wrote down this conflict of corporate know nothing douchebags versus blue collar competitive assholes. Like those are the two sides, and it's just that butting heads throughout. And Auuuugust kind of stuck in the middle, and Ford is kind of not aware of all that's going on. And so it's weird that they make BB. I heard that Ford actually gave some resistance to this film because they didn't want BB painted in such a negative light as the antagonist of the film. But I think it's pretty obvious he is, right?
He's definitely the antagonist of the film. And he did struggle with the team. I mean, they all struggled with the team because, again, like I think his speech later about the folder moving through all the hands is really effective at saying like the way that things move on a racing team is so fundamentally different than the way a corporation works and how slow that it works. And you can't be beholden to something that the process that goes that slow. And so they certainly had those conflicts. That is true, but it wasn't to the degree of like BB trying to replace Miles. Like BB was running another team almost the entire time. So it wasn't like he cared that much about Miles in particular, but there was some conflict there, but he wasn't like the villain. His biggest problem was, and this comes up at Daytona, 24 hours of Daytona later, he did have a big issue with the way they ran that race because and this is a saying in F1 too, of like, to take first, you have to finish, right? Like to finish first, you have to finish. And so this car is at this point relatively untested. And so he's like, you're pushing the car too hard. And that was basically what his belief system was rooted in, of like, I'm not trying to stop you. I'm saying you're not going to finish the race.
He'd rather come in like fourth place than to not finish at all,
Right. And so, and obviously they want to win, but, and so they did have like some conflict, but they definitely exacerbate it for this story for sure. But I think it does tell a great story. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like it's based on a true story. And I think they do a good job of making him the antagonist.
You touched on that second conversation after they fail in what did you say? It was the 65 race?
The 65 Le Mans, they do not win. Yeah.
Yeah, where Miles is sort of left behind. And I do like that scene where he's just
He
listening on
does
the
go, though.
radio and he's able to
Yeah.
ID everything that is happening wrong with the
Love that
cars.
scene.
He's just sort of talking to himself. And then the fallout from that, when Shelby has to go talk to Ford again and sort of he's like, why should I not just fire everyone involved? And he talks him through it. And we have that
Yeah.
buildup of that ends in just go to war. Like, okay, we got one more year.
Yeah.
This time, let's fucking win it. I love that
Yeah.
scene too.
I love that progression. Like, you do need that story, right? Like, they are doing some serious testing on building this car. It can't, like, we can't ignore the iterations that this car and the engineering that has impacted the iterations that this car has gone through. I mean, it starts with an English chassis that, like, Lulu company that they're talking about. That's a English chassis, and it's an American made car, and then it's a Ford engine, and then it's been modified. Like, there's so many things that they changed to this car throughout this process that's really fascinating. And I do think, on the whole, it's a really collaborative experience. But to your point, Ford is just so removed from that
Yep.
most of the time. He just doesn't get to see the, like, boots on the ground and the people working together to do this. And so I do think Carroll becomes the sales guy for this in so many ways. And I think that the 24 Hours of Daytona makes for such a compelling scene for that reason of, like, I am here to convince you that this is possible, because this is the only race that's comparable to Le Mans. It is different, but it's the only one that we can just show you that's comparable to Le Mans. It's 24 Hours of Daytona. It's the same runtime, very different track, of course. It's much more controlled, but the 12 hours of Sebring isn't going to tell you the stamina, the endurance of the vehicle the way that this will. And so I love that they have that, like, that's the pitch, that's the way to, like, really get him to buy into this. And he didn't, like, bet his company, to be clear, but I think that makes it really fun.
Yeah, that Daytona race is cool. There's obviously a lot riding. I like that they sort of split the movie into lots of experimental test drive
Yeah.
scenes, a lot of the drama cutaways that work really well with the family dynamics and their personal relationships. But they really do break the movie outside of that into these two massive racing scenes, being Daytona
Yeah.
and Le Mans. So it's smart of them to sort of pace the movie in that way, no pun intended. But that Daytona scene, for as simple as the track is, just the shots. I love how creative you can get with shots in racing movies, and the cameras on the outside of the car and the cameras in front of the cars as they race and take the corners. Some of those corner shots are really, really cool when you're sort of tracking when the right time to make a move is. Yeah, Daytona's fun to watch.
I just, like, I literally have in my notes, I'm like, I could watch racing scenes for hours. Just like, I could just watch this for hours. It's so fun. I love it. Fun fact, if you watch F1, they have a version of the viewing now that can be from a driver perspective. And, like, if you have the F1 streaming membership, which I have, obviously. And so, like, if you watch it, you can they toggle the view throughout the viewing. And so I love that you can have all these different angles and you can kind of see the experience, and you can see at multiple points, like, how tense it is and how close they are. And, like, I just love that comes through in the way that they shot that throughout the whole scene. But then also, to your point, the garage scenes are just as impactful. Like, they're doing the work, you're looking at the drawings, you're seeing them working in the car, like, getting there, like, rolling their sleeves up. It's not all just races. And I think that's an important part of the story to tell, is, like, there's so much work on the back end that goes into this car, this driver, this track, this everything about this.
For sure. Lots of conversations, lots of pushback, lots of opinionated people. We get the argument around 7,000 RPMs and why that is pushing the car too hard. So I like that comes up in Daytona when he finally gives him the all clear of, like, we need to win this race. Go like hell. Yeah, and that's, I think, the original book title that this is based on was actually called Go Like Hell. So I like that gets a little shout out here. And before we get to Le Mans, I feel like there's three different fights / arguments throughout the film that I'd like to touch on, quick. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but
we can spend as much time on this as you want.
Okay. I know you love this movie. So I love the argument in the car with Miles and his wife, where she is driving and, like, making him uncomfortable, which is bonkers that he's this race driver and he's freaked out.
I love that. And he's, like, trying to eat the potato chips. So good.
But that whole scene where she's taking these corners and he is like weirded, like just terrified, and eventually they
She's a
stop.
bad bitch. Let's
Oh
be
yeah,
honest.
for
Like she's
sure.
a bad bitch the whole time, and she will hold your ass to the fire. And I love that about this scene.
And it goes on for a while. Like I feel like
For a
most
while.
movies, this scene would be like 60 seconds. Oh, she's driving crazy, now it's over. But this goes
Nope.
on, and it's a full ass conversation they're having. And I
Mhm.
really enjoy that it ends with, when they pull over, they have their heart to heart. He comes clean, but as soon as he says
$200.
$200 a day, she's like, "What the hell are you thinking about?" Like, yeah, you're doing this. I just love that
Yeah.
she sees the logical, solution.
She's like, oh, by the way, the paycheck. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, I did Google that for today money. You're welcome. Because I was like, how much does this work out for like an average salary? That is over $700,000 a year in today money if he worked a full year in that job.
Jesus. Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
She's like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's do it.
The second one that I wanted to talk about was the actual Miles and Shelby fight, because it comes out of nowhere almost. He's kind of coming to make
It's
up, and
so
then
bad.
just that cheap shot in the face, and then they're just sort of wrestling with each other on the ground and throwing food at each other. It's not a typical Hollywood fight, which I think Bale and Damon were
That's what I
both on the
love about
record
it.
of
Yeah.
liking it. They said, "Hey, we only had
Yeah.
20 minutes to rehearse this quote unquote fight, and we had done so." You think of the Bourne movies and the Batman movies; they had done so many scripted, choreographed fight scenes. They were like, it was nice to just be like roll around on the ground and like throw a couple cheap
And
punches
don't
and
do a good job. Just
yeah,
fight, you know?
yeah. But I love how that plays out. The wife bringing out the lawn chair and watching them,
Yeah.
and then, honey, can I get a fizzy pop? And like, don't give one to Shelby.
Don't give him one. He's like, yes, please, Molly. She brings him one.
Yeah, it's that plays out really, really great. I love that scene. And then the final one was when they lock BB in the room in order to take Ford out on that test drive and to show him what they've built. And the way
And
that
he
whole scene
cries.
plays out, the comedy of them trying to keep BB in the room just so that Shelby can get this 5-minute
Yeah.
conversation with Ford to sell him on Miles.
Yeah. No, I think they play it perfectly in this movie. I mean, this didn't happen, but I love it. I wanted it to have happened in real life. And he, again, when we talk about, Tracy Letts like playing this character, such a great complexity to this scene, right? Like he's coming in to check on his $9 million investment, but that doesn't even translate to him as riding in the car. Like, I
Right.
think that's such an important call out here personally of he is so executive at this point that he is that far removed, right? Like, I'm coming to look at my car. You didn't even consider riding in the car, And Shelby is like, nah, man, let's go. And first of all, I think that's the best sales pitch of your life. That's a great
Yeah,
move.
let me show
Do
you
it.
what, I forget what the dollar amount is he throws out, but let me show you what your money bought you. Yeah.
Let me show you what the $9 million
Yep.
bought you. And so like I love that. And then I just love the tight quarters, all the things, like how he gets in, everything, how awkward it is, how he's holding onto the seatbelt, like you can tell he's just about to fucking lose it and piss his pants. And I love the cutaway to like, this is where the uninitiated tend to soil themselves. Like it's just perfection in this scene. And then stop, and they sit there, and it's the most awkward scene in the world. It's played perfectly. Like Matt Damon as Carol Shelby is like, I am wildly uncomfortable with your feelings right now, and I cannot, like, you are too
he's
much
crying. And as a viewer, again, first time viewer, I was like, was he terrified this whole time? And they make it uncomfortably long, like it is him crying, and Shelby's feeling the same thing. And then when he finally reveals, he's crying almost tears of joy because of like, I wish my grandfather could be here to see
but it's
this.
also right, it's very bittersweet for him, right? Where he's like, this is incredible. Like, I can't, like, this is why we're in this business. This is why my family does this. We love automobiles. We love cars. We love speed. This is groundbreaking. And, my dad doesn't get to see it. And I just love, he's like, you see that connection where he's like, I wish my daddy was alive to see this. And first of all, I hate when people say daddy when they're grown adults, but whatever. In this context, it works beautifully. It works beautifully where you're like, you just like, he's reconnected to his love of cars, of automobiles.
He remembers what it's all about, which is kind of what Shelby's always understood, right?
Yes,
So
I love it.
As we move into sort of the finale, and when I say finale, I had to check the time when we
The
finally got
12-year
to Le
finale.
Mans. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what do we got? Like 30, 20 minutes left in this? There were like 45 minutes left by the time you get to Le Mans.
This is
And
like a
that,
2.5 hour movie
yeah.
almost. It's like 220 something.
And
Yeah,
it's demonstrative of what you talked about earlier of this is an endurance challenge. I mean,
it is.
I was going to say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but it's literally both. It is a
It's
marathon
so
sprint.
much.
So the 45 minutes plays out in such an interesting way. Right out of the gate, we get this incredible shot of a car getting like clipped and the car just exploding to pieces in front of the camera. I think that's a great shot to start the
Mm-hmm.
race.
There's there's so many things. I want to take a quick step back.
Yeah.
I love that you get the dynamic ahead of the race, right? Like Shelby's been here before, Ken Miles hasn't. I like that first conversation ahead of that of like Shelby's like, again, this is his lifeblood. This is what he needs and wants to do, but he doesn't get to drive the car tomorrow, right? There's only so much he can do, but he's sitting on that track and he's as close as he can get. And there's something like really poetic about that. And he's sitting there at the night before. And then Ken is like, he's the exact kind of driver. And I'm like, this is what Shelby has been saying the whole time, right? He's been saying like, this is your guy. This is the driver. He knows the car. He knows the track. He has put in the time. He's the guy. And of course, he's there to walk the corner. Right? Like I just love that scene of like they have this quick interaction and he's like pretending like he's gonna win and they're like manifesting, right? And he goes and he's like, I'm gonna go walk the corner. And Shelby's like, I figured. You know, like they are the same kind of guy when it comes to racing this car. And I think it's like a beautiful kickoff to this story. And they're just in total alignment, like to the degree that they've had conflict and they're like, Carol Shelby handles his thing and Ken Miles handles his thing, and they are like, you know, never the two shall pass kind of thing. They have now like gotten into perfect sync going into this race, and I love that dynamic going into this, and it kicks off. Yeah, the stupidest thing in the world, however, stupidest thing in the world is the run to the fucking car. You will never ever convince me that that's not the most bullshit thing in the world, and it's also not the most bullshit thing about this race. It'll come back later, but they did disband it. They don't do it anymore. But at this point, this was, you got to run to your vehicle.
It's like the world's laziest biathlon. It's like, okay, we're going to do a 20-foot run and then an 800-mile drive.
This isn't about my running skills. This is about my car skills. I would be so enraged in 66. I would be like, I'm here to drive, not run.
I know.
Like,
what if you turn an ankle? Now you're like in the car, like your ankle's swelling up. That would suck. I guess I could see it probably made for an exciting visual, but I'm like, what is the risk of somebody tripping and falling? And now like there's cars zooming past them trying to get into the race.
Sure.
Yeah.
It was discontinued in 69 for all those concerned. Okay. It didn't last much longer, but I was like so annoyed at that in general. I always thought that was the stupidest thing. I was like, that's not what we're testing here. That's not what we're racing here. This is dumb.
Yeah. In that first lap when the door won't close and he's doing, I don't know, 150, 200 miles per hour and trying to slam the door shut.
Which again, like first of all, we have to talk about how he's still passing people, right? Yeah. Well, one, there's a bazillion crashes and things like you said, and they're all shot so well to your point, but he's still fucking passing people. Well, trying to hold his door closed. That's how good of a driver this man is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that we have to acknowledge that. And he has to fucking pit on the first lap, which is the most annoying thing. But I love how they filmed that scene. He's like, the fucking door won't close. And, you know, they're troubleshooting and all that. And he just comes with a fucking sledgehammer and slams in it, like, get on the road. And I just, my first watch, I remember going, but like, what if we can't get out? You know, like, what if we can't get out later? But it's such a great scene. And then he just is like, and then he's out with a vengeance. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah. I am kind of bummed, but I think this is indicative of how good the final race is, because I didn't take a lot of notes during that 45 to 15-minute mark of the film. I was just so engrossed in the race itself. The racing is the best. And it's 24 hours of this. So it blew my mind. There's the scene earlier at Daytona where he gets out of the car and then gets on a phone call. And I'm like, oh, he's like off the clock, but he's going to go take a nap and then come back and race again. Like, you have to kind of understand how these races work. So it is just this endurance test. You see the owners at one point leave to go get dinner or whatever, and they'll just come back the next day for the finish of the race. But meanwhile, these two drivers are just rotating back, forth, back, forth.
I also just don't know how you do that as, like, I'm not an owner of a
Yeah.
fucking car race, whatever. But I remember like watching that, and they're not set up the same way that they are now, by the way. Like a lot of these tracks now literally have condos attached to them. So I think it's maybe a little bit different now. But at at that age, I would have had such a hard time leaving. Like if I'm the owner on this, I understand that it's an endurance race and it's going to take 24 hours, but like leaving and coming back to little to no information, because again, like you're not there to see it all, you're not witnessing it in real time. I would have the hardest time with that. But yeah, that's how long this race is. You can leave for dinner and go to bed and come back and see what's happening. It's crazy. But I love how much racing there is, to your point.
Oh,
Like literally I have that in my notes. I'm like, I am here to watch the race.
And they
like,
work in so many dramatic moments. I feel bad that I'm not going to be able to touch on all of them because it's, again, I was just so engrossed with this, but the calls from the corporate suite down to the track, and then sort of Shelby figures out what's happening, and then he's just like, don't pick up the phone anymore for BB. Like, we're not listening to him. He's not the coach of this team.
Yes, I love that conflict. I love so many little things about that. And don't worry, I got you. So there's so many fun factoids. One, I love that he steals the Italian stopwatches just because fuck it. Why not? Fuck them up. Like they don't know. He's like, and I love that he calls him out and he's like, it's a nice stopwatch. He's like, you want one? They're Italian. Like I love that whole dynamic, and it's petty and it's little, but it's like
with a little, like, is it a lug nut or a washer that he puts on the ground?
Oh my god, that's my favorite thing. Yes, because then they want to make him pit because they're like, well, we maybe missed a lug nut, whatever. And so he's like, he's not like cheating, but he's freaking them out. Yeah. And so like I kind of love that of just dropping the lug nut. But fun fact, I was watching this and like these pit stops are wild, you guys. Like in today time, these pit stops are less than 10 seconds for Le Mans specifically. I looked it up because I was like, what are they at right now? And right now, Le Mans specifically is like sub 10 seconds. I think last year, the fastest team got 8 point something in terms of seconds. Versus in this film, you see multi-minute stops, which is probably true for the ones that they changed the drivers, right? Yeah. But actually, even then, they were quite a bit faster. They make it feel a lot slower than it is. Because the average pit stop, again, there are probably longer ones where they're switching drivers, but the average pit stop time in 1966 at this race was under a minute.
Okay.
So these are actually like multi-minute stops in these scenes. And I think it like adds to the drama, and it makes you feel the tension of trying to beat Ferrari even more because they're so fast at their pits. But they were actually like pretty good at their pit stop. And the thing that I think is just like my favorite thing that happens is the upright brake assembly swap.
I was gonna add, that was gonna be my question. Was that something that actually happened? They were the first team to be like, we're just gonna change everything during the stop.
Okay. Yes, it is. It totally happened, and it was awesome because it was like so a part is a part. Like they read the rule book, and that's what I love about this fight. But like they had real brake problems. Ferrari had never done this. Nobody had ever done this. But what's funny is like you see Ferrari's team right next to them, like in an uproar at this race, and they actually weren't super shocked. They kind of like they saw the genius of it, and they were like, okay, I mean, wow. It was the officials who like didn't expect something like that and sort of lost their minds. And it was a very similar interaction to what you actually see with Shelby and Ken, where like, I don't know if it was Ken that like started screaming at them, but I love that they turned that into the scene. And Carol was like, part is a fucking part.
Yeah. Like, we read your book. We read your rule book.
And I love that scene because like they pull, when you change brake pads, it is only part of the problem because you're grinding into that rotor when you see it in real time. Like his brakes are on fire. The reason they're sparking and turning red is that is metal on metal, right? Like what's behind the pad is metal. The caliper is grabbing the rotor and it's fucking on fire. So you replace the pads, great. You've already ground into your rotors, which hinders your ability to actually brake because your brake pad is not making contact with the rotor in full, right? And also you're tired, like you shake, all kinds of things happen when you don't do that. So it is a brilliant, innovative move to replace the entire assembly and to do it so fast and be like, fuck it, I got fresh rotors. Like this is groundbreaking. I love it. It's my favorite.
And they're the only ones that built their car to sort of make that happen. Like they built around that concept. So, as the race goes on, I mean, we kind of come into the conclusion here of the race itself. I mean, and it's historically accurate, and I don't think it's anticlimactic that the Ferrari kind of breaks down after a while. I feel it burns out, whatever. He blows his engine and they're just out of the race. I don't think that makes it less exciting because then we get the entire plot line of BB saying we want them all to finish it. And that becomes, again, the main conflict is BB.
Which is true. The reasonings for that are debated, right? But they did want that. They did want the shot, the single shot. And there is much debate about whether, well, I shouldn't even say much. The consensus generally is that he didn't know that would happen because of the running bit.
He seems so far, like you said, removed from it that I'm like, he didn't know that technicality. He just didn't want Miles to win in the context of this film.
Right.
As a PR thing in real life, it was probably just like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to get a photo of all three of our cars?
100%.
So, I don't know.
That's really what it came down to.
So
I think it just came down to that, right? Like, and they call it out really well in this movie, which is they sell cars.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the business that they're in. They're here to sell cars. So, and Lee gives that pitch at the very beginning too, of like, they want to buy, or Iacocca gives that pitch at the beginning where he's like, they want to buy a piece of that success, a piece of that speed, like that excitement. So at the end of the day, like, that's what they're doing. They're trying to sell these cars. And so that is historically accurate in terms of why he ended up not winning. And that turn at like the Mulsanne, so that straight that he does, that's the Mulsanne straight. It's like a very famous straight. That turn before it is very tight. There's actually a Bentley named for the Mulsanne straight that was made for like 10 years. And I actually got the super exciting moment of like riding in. This is very cool, but it's like a 500 horsepower car. Anyway, very cool. But that straight is very famous. And like, that gives him the clarity moment of, do I do this? You know? And my thing is like, he's had this beautiful, perfect lap. Like, he gets that moment. And I love that for him. Like, I love that storytelling here of like, he's calling back to his conversation with his son. And he's getting that perfect lap. He's always chasing the perfect lap. And, and then he's like, I'm content. I'm happy. And I love the like beauty and the romance of this in this story. But me, I'm like, no. Like, if it were me, I'd be like, I fucking earned this shit. Like, fuck you guys. I'll see you in a minute. Like, I'll be there. I would like maybe slow down, but still cross first.
Yeah, I'm taking first place. You can get your photo, but you're going to be 5 feet behind.
You can get your photo in a fucking triangle. That's still a pretty photo. Like, I'm going to be in front of you. I just can't. It's just like, it's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking.
So there's two scenes here near the end of the film where we've talked a lot about Bale and Damon's dynamic and how without these quality actors, this film doesn't work as well. And in that scene where Bale is telling us his inner thoughts through just facial expressions, you are reading his face. There's no inner monologue, there's no dialogue. It is just him, and you realize exactly he's coming to grips with. Like, fuck, I'm really gonna do this to be a team player for once in my life. There's also the scene, I don't want to like spoil the end, but like Damon has a scene 10 minutes after that where it's the final scene in the movie and he is in a car telling us a story through his facial expressions and how he's feeling in this moment, and we get this big wave of emotion there. And I just love how those two anchors of the film get those scenes like 10 minutes apart.
They each get that. Yeah. They each get that moment, and it's in a car. And I think that's so poetic. And I mean, all that lead up comes to like, you have been rooting for this man so hard. This team, so hard, but you want for Ken to like have this moment. And yeah, he loses it on a technicality, and McLaren wins, and McLaren's a racing legend, like, obviously, but he should have won that race for all the reasons that we know and that we saw. And he not only built that car, but he anchored that race. And so it is just a truly heartbreaking moment. But what I also think is beautiful about it is like, he supposedly says very calmly in real life, well, I think I've just been fucked. Like, in real life, which is like, I almost wish they had put it in the film, because it feels like it would fit here too. Like, that feels like something he would say, but they just like turn around and get back to work. They're both like, well, fuck it, we'll win it next year.
You get like a double heartbreak here, because you go immediately from him being like, okay, fine, sucks, but we did what we came here to do, and then the next scene is like his death scene, and it's such a bummer on top of another bummer. Yeah,
and this is a really, really hard scene for a number of reasons. One, it's just sad and devastating, especially in the context of what just happened, and that he's like, okay, whatever, fine, I'll go win it next year. I mean, even Shelby tells him in this movie, which is not quite historically accurate, like, you'll be the first man to win the Triple Crown, because he does win Sebring, but Sebring is after this actually in real life.
Okay.
So he wouldn't have known that, but like he would have won the Triple Crown at this point. And I think it's like, hey, just go do it next year. You know what I mean? You're gonna be the first man to ever do that. That's incredible. And then, yeah, they're on this test track, and this is a new car. It's not the same car. It's not even like the same base. This is a it's like the J car series that Ford had been separately testing and actually already had a death. And so he starts testing it, and this does happen, that it at high speeds catches air in the rear, because there's like a rear, they call it a bread van back. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like a long thick back, and it catches a lot of air. So it catches air in the rear and it flipped. They imply in this that it's brake failure. It's not brake failure. It's like this air that catches and it flips over, just like end over end. And so it explodes, and he is ejected from the car is actually what happens, and he dies instantly. And it's heartbreaking because it's like 2 or 3 months after Le Mans. It's not that long. It's very, very soon after. And it's so sad for so many reasons. But to your point, you just see Shelby's heartbreak. Like, he wanted this for him too. He earned it. He knew he earned it. They respected each other so much, but especially as racers. And he wanted him to have that opportunity, and he just didn't get to. It's so hard to see.
Yeah, I think it's worth calling out here on the Ferrari side of things that Bandini, who's sort of the antagonist in the race itself, the other driver in the Ferrari car, he also died in a crash, I think maybe a year or two after this. It's not a very forgiving profession, right? Whether it's actual races or test drives or whatever, your life is constantly on the line here.
It's also a deadly sport. It's a truly deadly sport.
Especially in like the 60s and 70s. Like, I feel like technology's come a long way, but we still see things like, even still in NASCAR, deadly, like Dale Earnhardt, that one comes to mind. But F1, I'm sure there's recent ones as well.
Michael Schumacher. I mean, we'll talk about that next episode, but like there's really bad wrecks and things that have happened like to date. So it's a deadly sport. Yeah.
The only other thing that I wanted to call out on the Ferrari side was, for those of you who are Italian, like we said, outside of the United States, this was not called Ford versus Ferrari for obvious reasons. It was called what, Le Mans 66 or 66 Le Mans?
I think so, 66
like
Le Mans,
that. So they just named it after the race, right? So if you are Italian and you're watching this and you're pissed off, just know they got their revenge. Ferrari, at the next race they went up against Ford, which I think was Daytona the following year, they pulled the same shit. They ended up coming 1, 2, 3, and they did the same photo op to kind of get revenge on Ford. So if they ever make a sequel to this, maybe it's the Italian side.
But at Daytona, at Le Mans, this car won at Le Mans in 66, 67, 68, 69. And
well, which is more classy and important, Italy or Florida? You tell me, Mackenzie. Daytona and Florida, yes.
I think if we asked the Ferrari people, they would agree with what I think is the
like,
obvious.
We love a Florida. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for my shitty Italian accent.
Oh, it's probably better than mine. You're doing fine. But I also think one last nugget there is they say that this is the only American car to win at Le Mans. And I think we've got to shout out the OG English chassis that was on this car, which, to be fair, is just the frame. But hey, like we got a little bit of English in there too. So give them credit where it's due. But yeah, I think like I fucking love this movie. I love the way it tells this story. It has a bittersweet ending, but as is called out in the ending, Ken Miles is inducted into the Motorsport Hall of Fame, as he should be, obviously. And obviously Carroll Shelby went on to be one of the most successful automakers of all time, and was incredibly famous for not only this, but his cars, so the Cobras. I've always wanted a Cobra. And you see him kind of go through this, like you said, where he's missing Miles, and I think that's just because they're a kindred spirit. And I love that they make that very clear in all this racing and all the car sales and the politics and the suits of it all. Like, at the end of the day, Carroll's struggling with this because that was his friend, and it was his friend who had the same passion, the same need, that he did, and they just really understood each other and understood racing, and he wanted that win for him. He's quoted later as saying, like, we lost him 2 months later, and I just wanted to give him that chance. Like, he loved this man, and he loved this sport. So I think that comes through in this movie.
Yeah, that final interaction. I like that they keep it so simple. Like, he has literally like 8 back and forth lines with his son, and it's like, it chokes me up for how simple it is. He's obviously trying to restrain, completely breaking down in front of this kid, and is just saying the fewest words possible to get his point across. And then he just kind of shares a friendly wave with the wife of like, I'm with you. Like, but yeah, that speed off at the end. I love how it ends with him driving like hell out of there, of just like cutting people off and weaving through traffic, of just, this is the way they choose to live their lives, right?
That's just fucking who he is, man. Like, he just has to do it.
I know that BB is a real person, and he is not the same person as the character in this film. He is the antagonist in this film.
Yes.
When they put up the here's what happened to Miles, and here's what happened to Shelby, and here's what happened, I really just wanted one that said like, Leo Beebe died of dysentery like 6 months the character in the movie, not the real
Oregon Trail.
Yeah, not the real guy, just the character in the movie. I would have been okay with that.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's fair. The character sucks. The character super sucks for sure. And I think that they do a good job of pitting him as the suit. Yeah, he is a real, like, I'm just here to be the suit kind of guy, for sure. Okay, well, obviously I loved this so much. What would your rating be?
I really enjoyed it for a first time through. I will end up rewatching it at some point because I'm curious to see, like, second watch if it drags at all. Again, no pun intended. There's gonna be lots of that shit this month.
There's so many.
Yeah, if it drags at any point, like during the non-racing scenes, I'd be curious to see that. But for this first time through, I was pretty engaged throughout. I wanted to call out just for a period piece. I know it's the 1960s, but it looks great. I like seeing all the old cars and like the fashion and the racing themselves, like that, the weird helmets that they wear and the goggles as opposed to what we use nowadays. I know that the effort went in to remake Le Mans. Obviously that track's not around. The original's not around. So they had to use 6 different racetracks to recreate that track. And then you have continuity issues. And the fact that this was only like a 2-month, 3-month shoot is bonkers to me, because with all those issues. So clearly a lot of production hardships that really just crafted this incredible movie with great performances. So I'm going to go pretty high for first watch. I think I'm going to go like 8.5. I thought it was great.
I love it. Yeah. I agree with everything you said, basically. I also just love the amount of racing that's involved. Like, not that to take away from films that like tell more of the background story, again, Ferrari being one of those that's a little bit more about the background, but these are so much more compelling to me, so much more interesting to me, especially when they emulate real races, and they did a good job of representing these real races. And there are definitely some continuity with, the real story issues here, but I think on the whole, they did it in a way that's really close to the story and makes for a really compelling narrative and makes for these really beautiful visuals. And the performances are just like unmatched. I mean, they're so good. It's such a, like, they complement each other so well. And this is really a team sport, but like both in and out of the film, they are such a strong team, I think. And I think like this production on the whole is really strong. So yeah, I would go like a 9.5. I guess, like, I love this movie.
That's one of your highest rated of all time, I think.
I think so. I think it's definitely one of my I just have such a fucking great time. I just geek out. And
I'm curious to see how the rest of the racing movies go this month.
Listen, they're not all going to be 9.5s, but this is one of the really good ones. I think, honestly, it's really well done. It just marries all the things that I like. It marries like really strong, beautiful filmmaking, really great performances, like kind of the cinephile bits of it, with also just like, I fucking love an action movie, as we've established, but I also love a racing thing. And so just, it's kind of the perfect storm for me. I love it. So. Nice. All right, homies, thanks for joining and listening to me geek out so hard. And Lemar, I'm so glad that you had a great time. It's a good start to Racing Month for us. I'm excited to see where this goes, which next week come back for our next entry, which we alluded to a couple times, which is the recent release F1, just straight up F1. I love that they called it that, by the way.
It's the time to capitalize, right? I feel like F1 is at its peak as far as viewership, and they have the Netflix show and all this, so great time to put out a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great time to put out like some of us OG F1 fans know that now you're making it like extra expensive for all of us to enjoy the sport, but it's a great sport. It's really fun. And yeah, if you haven't seen it, Drive to Survive, very cool as
Mm-hmm.
well. And some of that is captured. So if you
And
want to watch either or both before, highly recommend it.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna, as somebody who's already seen it, it's not going to be a 8.5 out of 10 for me next week, but if you have a chance to see it in theaters, that is the way to see it. It was thrilling in theaters.
Oh yeah. No, me either. Spoiler alert as well. Like again, it's not going to be a Ford versus Ferrari for me, but I love a racing movie, period. But absolutely see it in theaters if you can. And also, fun fact, they're about to do a re-release to IMAX. So maybe hang tight for that
Yeah.
because that'll come back. There's been a bunch of action movies this summer, so it had a limited release, but then it's going to come back into IMAX, and it was filmed for IMAX. So
Nice.
check it out. But anyways, in the meantime,
In the meantime, follow us on our socials. We drink and we watch things on Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz. Comment, like, subscribe, whatever, all those things. And you can also interact with us at we drink and we watch things pod@gmail.com. If you want to send old school emails our way, you can see the video of this on YouTube or Spotify if you want to see Mackenzie's awesome outfit today. And yeah, so we hope to see you there.
all right. Well, for now, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.